Hi, how are you? This is Damaris Maria Grossman, and this is the Mindful Integrative Show. And today we have an amazing guest for our mindful chat. It's Dr. Amanda Zeine, and she is a pediatrician and a U.S. Army veteran, U.S. Army active. And I can't wait for you guys to chat with her today. She has a plethora of information and just has an amazing story on how she kind of helped heal herself and is has a great book out too. So thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Amanda, can I call you Amanda
Yes,
or Dr. Amanda?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Oh,
All
no,
right.
no, 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 Amanda.
Okay. Awesome. So tell those listening and watching a little bit about yourself. When I read your story, you're a doctor of osteopathic, you're a pediatrician, you're an Army veteran, flight surgeon, or flight
Flight surgeon.
doctor. That's quite amazing. So talk to me about how, a little bit of your work history and then kind of where you transitioned to kind of you wrote a big book about your hot mess to wellness, like just this big thing of kind of like transition. There's everybody has that little aha moment.
Mhm.
And I've had mine, you obviously have had yours. I read your part of your book and I'm still reading it. So talk to those about it. And I really like you to share.
Excellent. So I am a pediatrician and a flight surgeon because in the military, you are not just a pediatrician, you are a a general practitioner. And I did my residency in Hawaii. And as I was getting out of residency, I was told you will be going operational. So I chose flight medicine, and flight surgeon is not a surgeon who does surgery in a helicopter, like my mother was telling her friends. Yeah. So I basically was with an aviation unit my first 3 years out of residency, not taking care of kids and taking care of soldiers. I've deployed twice. I have spent 4 of my 14 years in the Army taking care of adults, even though I'm a pediatrician. And I loved every minute of it. It was an amazing, amazing adventure. And it helped me be a better doctor, I think.
Mhm.
So I went to the hospital in 2013 here at Fort Campbell, and I've been there ever since. I was the chief of pediatrics, and I had my accident in December of 2018. So it's been 3 years
And
since I fell.
what kind of accident did you have? Because I mean, no, those haven't people read your book, but in general, you had a pretty big accident.
Well, I never really
You
discussed
don't have to
exactly
discuss the
what
full, but like
happened.
you had an accident that caused you
Uh,
injury.
well, it's nothing fancy. I fell ice skating.
It's okay. Whatever the accident
I
was, you still got an injury.
Unfortunately, I had a bad car accident in high school and life flighted to the hospital. Very, very bad head injury. And because of that, it set me up for the symptoms that I've had since falling and
Oh,
hitting my head
wow.
twice on the ice. I, of course, being a doctor, did not go to the doctor. It was family time, and I didn't want to interrupt that. My husband was getting ready to deploy, and we had all the kids here. We both have kids from previous marriages, and I didn't want to interrupt family time. So I refused to go to the ER and didn't go to the doctor until my husband continued nagging me from Iraq. And finally went to the doctor a week later, where they forced me to go on brain rest because I continued trying to work despite almost passing out twice at work.
Oh, no.
Yes. And then after 48 hours of brain rest, I went back to work. And my boss basically said, "You will not come back to work," because I had another episode where I got dizzy and one of the other providers had to finish seeing my patients. I think just one patient for me at the end of the day. I was in clinic, and I had to have my sister-in-law come pick me up. And so my boss basically said, "You cannot go back to work until you've been cleared by a neurologist." And a month later, they named an interim chief of pediatrics. And 3 months later, he told me I was going to the Warrior Transition Unit, which is now called the Soldier Recovery Unit. And here I am 3 years later, still there, waiting for the Army to figure out whether or not I'm truly fit for duty and able to go back to work.
So you've been
So
working in the soldier recovery unit, or you were in the soldier recovery unit for yourself?
I am in there as a patient. I'm a patient. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to see patients since I think June of last year was the last time I saw patients.
Mm-hmm.
I did go back to work twice and did not do well.
Mm-hmm.
It worsened all my symptoms. I
Oh,
actually
goodness.
was one of the people who helped stand up the COVID triage line when COVID happened in 2020. But it was too much. It worsened my migraines. I have a lot of symptoms, which are definitely better. Don't get me wrong. I am definitely better than I was initially. Initially, I wasn't driving. I sat at home in the dark because I had migraines daily for 8 months until I finally started getting acupuncture. Acupuncture was a huge, huge success for me. And so that kind of brings me to my aha moment. I was sitting alone because my husband was deployed. Luckily, his family is local here, and his sister got to the point where she could hear in a text message that I was having issues. And
Mm-hmm.
either she or her significant other would come pick me up and bring me to her house, and I would lay on her futon while she worked. She's a home health coding nurse. And
Mm-hmm.
so she works from home, and I would lay on her futon while she worked. And I practically lived at their house while my husband was deployed
Oh.
because I was depressed
Mm-hmm.
and couldn't drive and sitting in the dark and had every app known to man. It says so in my book, every app that could deliver. And I gained 30 pounds. I couldn't do anything. I had a lot of issues with my balance. Like I said, I had the migraines literally every day. It was rough. And in April of last year, I stepped on the scale and I was the heaviest I've ever been, heavier than when I was pregnant with my daughter at
Mm-hmm.
time for delivery.
Oh.
And I decided, you know what? No, I feel horrible. How much of this is my head injury versus just feeling horrible because I'm eating junk, I'm not sleeping well, I'm tired all the time, I'm still having headaches regularly. We haven't gotten my regimen down.
Right.
And so I sat down and started Googling, and I went to the bookstore. I couldn't find something that fit what I was looking for. All of the books out there and all of the groups, they talk about, ooh, this magical cure, ooh, this magical pill. And you try all of them because, well, you
Think
want
that they
it to
work.
work.
Right.
And you do the diet and it lasts for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then you gain it all back. And you try the
Right.
exercise. Oh, wait, I can't do that because it makes me dizzy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm just going to make my own plan.
Yeah.
4 pages later, as I'm writing it all, I think to myself, why don't I just write this and write a book and share this with everyone? And so I Googled, how do you write a book? You know, Mr. Dr. Google. And I came across Self-Publishing School, which has been amazing. And they basically walked me through how to write a book. And I've had a coach throughout, a writing coach,
Mm-hmm.
and they helped me find great editors, formatters for discounted prices because they're working with the school. There's an online group that is a community that helps you find the right cover and helps you with your launch. And it has been a great experience. And it's also held me accountable. Part of writing the book was selfish. I use the book as my accountability.
I
If
mean, accountability
I
and your prescription. It was your own prescription.
Right,
Now think
right.
of
It
it
was
as
my
your prescription for others, right?
right. If I'm going to write this and tell other people to do it, I try to be a doctor that do as I do, not do as I say.
It's
I'm not
called integrity,
infallible.
but
Yes.
you're authentic. So you're true to yourself. Like I
Yes.
am going to try to my best to these things that I state, this is what I want
Absolutely.
to
And
do.
I fall off the wagon sometimes. Christmas was rough. Those Christmas cookies,
Yeah,
oh my goodness, they're so yummy.
I bet.
So I, I write in the book that it's a journey. I am still a little bit of a hot mess. And wellness to me isn't about being skinny. I would love to be skinny again. However, I am 40 years old and I don't have the metabolism I had at one point in time. I have my own health conditions. And so to me, optimal wellness is trying to be my best self. And
Right.
I continue to try to be my best self. And that's what the book is about. It's about helping people to see that it's not about some fad diet. It's not about some fad crazy exercise that most people can't do. It's about that 40-year-old woman sitting on the couch that wants to feel better. And it helps take people through and build better habits. And I try to have better habits, but there are times that, again, the do and do not eat foods, the recommended and not recommended foods in my book, I eat them in moderation. And that's another thing about diets that I hate is everybody wants to don't eat carbs, don't eat fats, don't eat this, don't eat. You can't cut any of that stuff out of your diet. It's all needed in some form.
Right.
And so the don't eat carbs and cutting all the fruits out of your diet, there are so many nutrients in fruits that you need.
Right.
So, and that's what the book is about. It's eat these fruits less often because they have more of that starch that's going to turn into fat. Eat these fruits more often and eat things in moderation. And if you eat this, it's not necessarily a bad food. It wasn't recommended, but it doesn't mean that now that you've eaten that, you've completely failed and you
Right.
should eat the whole bag of chips
Right.
because that's what I do. Not anymore. I try not to anymore, but
Yeah.
that's the way I was.
Right.
Once you
So it's having
fail,
a different relationship. So whether it's the food part, the food element, the wellness is
right,
encompassing many areas. And as you
right,
have seen on this podcast alone, it has many parts. And you've realized that through your journey.
right,
I
right,
mean, you're a well-educated, informed conventional medicine pediatrician, but military individual, and you've had to take on your health issues where there's probably plenty of doctors that you've probably gone to that haven't been able to fix some of these parts of your health,
absolutely.
you know,
Well, and a lot of it was difficult
or it's a
because
partial, maybe a small amount, and maybe some parts, so it just depends.
right. Well, and it's difficult when you have multiple medical issues because you don't know how much of this is that, like I said earlier, how much of this is the brain injury and how much of this is I feel like crap because of what I'm eating.
Right.
And
What
I
you put in your breast. So
definitely,
that it's a combination.
absolutely,
So, but it kind
absolutely,
of can be a cycle, right? Which you've
absolutely,
learned, you know,
absolutely,
um,
absolutely.
with time. You
So
must have
that's,
found, oh, you hear my little,
I had do,
yeah, yeah. You must have found through time, like, you know what I mean? It's like food is medicine part of it, but then there's this other aspect of, that, as I call it, sustainable health, and that integrative part where you had to find these other parts to get
right,
yourself into, and you can save many lives. And trying to, and I don't know if how you feel about this, but being in the medical field, like we are so good about saving everybody else except for ourselves,
oh,
and then
absolutely,
looking within and kind of sitting back. And it took me a lot of like being in the bottom, it sounds like you had a really rough time and you were in those dark places for you to finally go, oh wait, I gotta fix this. But it's like, you know, it
well,
changed.
part of and part of the head injury too, when I was going through all the therapies, I had to have all of the different, I went to the TBI clinic, and so I had the multidisciplinary approach, and so they also look at the mental side of things. And through some counseling, I realized I was close to burnout being a doctor, being the chief of pediatrics. My husband was deploying, and I was planning on using work to get me through that deployment. And I very well may have burned out. This may have been a blessing in disguise because I very well may have burned out. Now, it wasn't necessarily a true blessing because obviously the multiple sequelae that I've had. Sorry, sometimes words are hard to find for
No.
me.
It's getting the, yeah.
But I definitely think I was on my way to burnout
Yeah.
with my job. And we all are. We are a fast-paced society. And so in the beginning of the book, I talk about mindfulness and I talk about the relaxation part of things. And
That a lot.
I think one of the things I've learned is happiness. We really need to focus more on our own happiness, not just go, 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 and giving constantly to others, because a lot of the people in our profession,
Oh, in our profession are so burnout.
that's what we do, especially right now with COVID and the short staffed and I see it constantly.
Yeah, it's so sad. It's just, I mean, yeah, it's like and it's almost like a daily thing now,
Mhm.
you know. And more I kind of go, oh, what can we do? What can we do? Can change this? What can we make, to make it better? And then I think about, we're trying to make it better by changing, I think trying to change the dynamic, or I don't know if it's the like we're trying to make a different perspective on just the medicine. There's acute medicine, but even in the acute setting, I feel like there still needs to be a change in the way we work, in the way that we think, in the way that we're, like it just, there has to be like this more of a connection and more of like looking at the whole picture more. I feel like there's something, missing here, and through your story, you obviously, now I know that you're saying you're still growing and you're still going through your own discovery, but you've come a long way since your
Absolutely.
injury. And you're eventually, you want to get back to work, or at some
Definitely.
point, or wherever that work is for you, whatever that is, you're still, you're a doctor. Um, but, and you're making your message through your book and to others. What do you think? Like, do you feel like the lessons that you've learned from this injury, has it made you better? Or,
Yes, I definitely think so. So one of my biggest difficulties with all of this, because I'm a type A who go, 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 go. I tried to go back, like I said, I tried to go back to work multiple times. And one of the times was my boss calling me saying, Amanda, we need you. And he was the most amazing man, the most amazing boss. He is probably one of the best mentors I've ever had and is now a good friend
mm-hmm,
and is retired. He's a retired full bird colonel.
mm-hmm.
And he called me and I said, sir, I'll do whatever I can. That was back when he was still active. And so I helped stand up the COVID triage line, the phone lines. And I hadn't worked a full day since prior or to my injury, or right after my injury when I was still trying to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And my first day I worked 18 hours and it
Oh
was
my, that's
horrible.
not a short day. You definitely
No,
overworked it. You almost overdid it.
but
you know?
I did. Oh, I did. And I
Yeah.
was determined to not fail him because I'm the type of person that is absolutely unable to do wrong to someone who I respect. I am the type of person who cannot fail someone. And so
Your work ethic is just so strong.
I was determined to do this for him. And a month in, I emailed him and said, sir, I can't be doing this. So I started working from home some and then just coming in for shortened hours. And then a few months after that, I called him crying and told him I can't do this anymore. My mood swings were getting worse. My migraines were getting worse. My concentration was getting worse. And it was starting to affect my home life, my family life. And I said, sir, I can't do this. I just can't. And so he found a replacement for me. And then I started working part-time and that was much better. And I could work very well sitting at a desk at a computer or on the phone and doing all of that, occasionally seeing a patient here and there, but I can't see the 20 plus patients a day that are expected of me if I'm a clinic doctor. And
If not
that,
more, if not more.
if not more, right,
Yeah, it
right,
was like
whatever.
20, you're being nice. I remember the days when it was like 60.
So in the Army, they don't make us see that many right now. So it is, but it is expected by DHA. Every provider sees 20 plus patients a day. And there's just not enough time in the day to do that as a provider who is at 100%. And
Right,
I'm not at 100%.
right,
And
right,
so I don't want my colleagues to have to pick up my slack.
right, right.
And so that's where I am now
Mhm.
is, and my husband keeps telling me, stop worrying about it, stop worrying about it.
Yeah,
But
I think, yeah. And it's also, but that's the journey of this, right? And talking about how your journey and your health changes and realizing like it's okay to not go full throttle, learning
Mhm,
that. And then it's like it's okay to kind of sit with what's going on with your stuff, because then
absolutely.
you're going to teach someone else about it, right? And you're going to be guiding other individuals to be like, it's okay to not go. And it's okay to
Absolutely.
kind of, or sometimes people don't know how to look within and be like, and they don't even listen at all. You're listening to yourself.
Right.
You're trying to take a change. People don't even want to do that.
Well, and
That's a scary thing to go, oh, wait, I have to change.
right. Well, and one of the hardest things for me was to realize I am not who I was. That doesn't
You've
make me a
changed.
bad person.
No.
And this injury does not define me. And I have to create who I am now. I will never be who I was. I will never be at that, I shouldn't say level, because I'm still a good person. I'm still a good doctor. I just
Absolutely.
can't perform as quickly.
Right.
And I have basically ADHD that's not treatable with medicine.
Hmm.
So I'm pinging everywhere. It drives my
Hmm.
husband crazy, especially if I haven't had caffeine. The caffeine does help some. So I do drink a lot of coffee in the morning,
Hmm.
but then I follow it up with my decaf tea because I can't have too much. But I definitely have a hard time focusing, and they tried treating me with ADHD meds and they didn't work. And it was described to me as, well, you don't truly have ADHD. This is because of the head injury.
Right.
And so, because I have that, that also works against me. I used to be able to, as the chief of pediatrics, I'd be sitting at my computer reading email, listening to a nurse give me report, and I'd have people lined up outside the door. I'd be putting out fires, and I'd jump from thing to thing to thing, and I'd
And
be
you'd be able to, it
fine.
wouldn't be a problem. It was no problem.
Right. Now I have a nurse come tell me about a patient. I have to go see the patient right away. And then I have to come in and I have to finish my note right then and there, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to remember what happened.
Right. Right.
And they don't give you enough time to do that in conventional
It's just
medicine.
a different way. And you're aware of that. And now it's a change. And I think what is good for people to hear is it's okay to be different now. It's okay
Right.
that you've changed or
Right.
to change, whether it's from this injury or from an illness or from a trauma or from whatever that is.
Right.
And it's also okay that where you're at is beautiful. Like maybe it is the time to slow, or it's a transition to something else in medicine for you, or the book
Right.
that you've written for someone else to hear and get guidance on. I mean, I was definitely a defeatist of myself of, oh, I'm not this, I'm not that,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, I didn't do that. What's wrong with me? And then I go, you know what? It's going to be okay. And it's that self, trying to keep going, not self-hating, self-loving. And I
The
can hear that.
self-talk. Yes.
Yeah, that self-talk that we do.
Yes.
Um,
So self-talk is your biggest enemy. Usually we are our biggest enemies. We put ourselves down more than most people. And one of the biggest things I had to realize was that I am not who I am. This injury doesn't define me. I define me. And I have to stop with the self-hate and the negative self-talk. And that's where the mindfulness comes in. That's
yeah.
where learning relaxation comes in. And so one of the things that they had me do for my recovery, they told me to find a creative outlet to help with my brain recovery. Now, being a perfectionist and a type A personality, it's very difficult to find things because you want everything to be perfect. And so my niece, like I said, my husband's family has been amazing through all of this. My niece, on my husband's side, took me to Books a Million, and we looked for hobbies because I had no hobbies. I had zero hobbies because all I did was work. And if I took off work, it was family time.
Right.
I
Right.
didn't do anything for myself. And that's something else that we have to realize, that you have to take time for yourself.
Yep.
If you don't take time for yourself and have a hobby or a way to relax or an outlet, then stress just builds and builds and builds. And so I tried origami. I failed miserably. Those poor little pages had so many folds in them from undoing them and redoing them and undoing. I said, no, this is not for me. And it took me 3 attempts at crochet before I finally took up crochet. And now it helps me with my headaches. If I have a headache and I crochet, it is my relaxation. I will sit and crochet. If we have the TV on at night, half the time I'm not even watching it, I'm crocheting. And honestly, it's become one of my main ways of relaxation, and I started selling it. So
Awesome. You can always have those in the show notes too.
oh, right. Yeah. Amanda's Crochet Cubby. It is
there you go.
Actually, I have an official business. I applied for my business license just in case it goes somewhere. And I have a Facebook page. So yes, it's amazing. And I never imagined any of this. If you would have asked me 20 years ago where I'd be right now, I would not have ever thought I would write a book. I never imagined I'd be on podcasts. I never imagined I'd own a crochet business.
Right.
And it's just, God works in mysterious ways. He opens doors where you never imagined they would be opened. And you have to step out of your comfort zone. You really do.
Beautifully said. Step out of your comfort zone, and those doors open, as one of my guides had told me, when they start opening, that means you're supposed to be walking through them. When they start closing and it's difficult, there's a reason for that, even though you may not see that. So all of the difficult things that you've gone through may have seemed impossible to get through, but now these openings you're seeing more light and more opening, and it's just with time, little by little.
Well, I truly believe everything happens for a reason. Why? I don't know. Sometimes we eventually find out, but everything happens for a reason. And someday I may understand why all of this happened. But at this point, I just have to continue moving forward. And that was part of writing the book, was one, kind of looking at what do I need to do for myself? And two, maybe I can help some other people, and we'll see what happens. I've sold a little over 100 copies. That's not a lot.
Congrats. So every little bit.
It is what it is. And I didn't write it to make money. And it was more of a, hey, I can actually do this. And just like years ago, I ran a marathon because I always wanted to, and I wanted to prove it to myself that I could. And I will never run another marathon again. Well, one, because now I can't, but two, as I was finishing that, I said, this will never happen again. It was horrible.
I've ran a couple of those. They're no fun.
Oh my goodness gracious. I couldn't walk when I got home.
No fun. I agree.
But I wanted to be able to do it. And I did it. My mom is a cancer survivor, and I did it with Team in Training. And awesome. And she was my hero. So I had a purpose for it, but it was also to prove to myself that I could do it. I'm one of those people. I I take on challenges to prove that I can do it, not to anyone else, to myself.
For ourselves. Yeah, I know
Right.
I can relate to you on that. I had such a pleasure talking with you today. I would love for you to, I'm going to put all in the show notes for people to reach out to you.
Okay,
You said
absolutely.
Amanda's, crochet cubby, but also your book is Hot
Yes.
Mess to Wellness, right?
Yes. Yes.
And is there something that you'd like to send out to the or a
Here's
little
my
note of mindful tip, as I would say? Oh, great. Hot Mess to Wellness. Love it. 7 steps to better health when you have
when
tried
you've
it all.
had it, when
Had
you've
enough.
tried it all and had enough.
Love it. Love it. And then I'd like to know if you have a little small tip you'd like to leave the listeners.
So basically, a lot of them we've already talked about.
Right?
You really, we forget about ourselves a lot, and we forget that it's not about work, 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 work. Relationships are one of the most important things in our lives, and keeping those positive relationships and looking at the negative ones and deciding, do they truly need to be in your life, and having a good support system is definitely a good thing to have, and is definitely a part of your life that you want. Slowing down, I mean, especially now, it seems like everyone is in such a hurry and so angry, and everyone is so short staffed, and you go into a store and you see such hateful people, and just surrounding yourself with positive influences and being a positive person. And I'm not always positive, but we can all do better.
Yeah.
But that is something that we definitely need to do, and remembering that it's us that decides. Anyone can say anything to you and make you feel like you feel a certain way, but in the end, you're the one that controls those feelings, and you're the one who, it's how you react to other people, and how you react and act. And that's part of the hot mess to wellness, is unless you want to do it, you won't. And so if you're sitting on the couch and feel like being lazy and not doing anything, and go buy a book, but you're not ready to actually take action, you're the only one that can take that step. You're in charge of you. So, but you can do anything.
I love that. Oh, thank you so
Who would
much.
have thought I'd own a business, right?
See, I'm so proud of you, Dr.
Oh,
Amanda.
thank you.
You have so much to offer and so much to share, and so many things more for people to reach out. So I really appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, absolutely.
And thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, I love it. And I can't wait to be working with you in the future for other future endeavors. So,
Oh, that would be great.
yeah. So thanks, guys, for coming on the Mindfully Integrative Show. And as I say, make sure you find a mindful way each and every day.